picture of the Islamic Republic. In fact, the Iranian leadership says that the nation is united despite the claims made by America suggesting otherwise. Government officials and the leadership shared the same message in a bid to amplify the voice of Iran. Responding to remarks from Donald Trump suggesting that the Iranian leadership was seriously fractured, Iranian president, the parliament speaker and the chief justice all posted a nearly identical message on social media. The message said that there are no hardliners or moderates in Iran, ending with a message of one God, one nation, one leader and one path. A post on Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei's X account took aim at the enemy media's operations. These are their words that seek to undermine unity and national security. This comes in response to American President Trump's claims that the Iranian government is in a state of severe internal turmoil and infighting. In fact, on Thursday, Trump had announced the extension of the ceasefire with Iran, citing the need to allow Tehran's leadership more time to formulate a unified proposal for negotiations. In a post on his Truth Social, President Trump claimed that Iran is having a hard time figuring out who their leader is. He also said that there is infighting going on between hardliners and moderates within Iran. Let's get a perspective on this. I'm joined right now on the broadcast by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis. He's a military expert and host of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Colonel Davis, welcome to WION. Always a pleasure speaking with you. I want to start by asking you what you think of this almost similar unified message by the Iranian leadership. Is it the truth or is it a facade to cover up what Trump claims, that there is an internal rift going on within the Iranian leadership?
Yeah, listen, I think that what the Iranians are saying in this particular case, anyway, can be taken at face value because it's logical. I mean, why would they have a fracture? I mean, there's any time you're talking, and definitely even the United States, there is significant internal friction when policies are being made. I mean, that's how things are supposed to work, where you have one of your advisors talking this way, another group of advisors talking another way to give different competing ideas to the president so he can come up with his best one. And there's no question that that's working on the inside with the IRGC. But the way their government is formed, there is no dispute about anything. There's the Guardian Council, headed by the Supreme Leader, is the one in charge, and that's it. Everybody else is subordinate to that, to include the IRGC. So what they're saying out loud is what we know about how their government works. And that's also logical when you think about how would it work if you're being attacked. That's not the time to say, hey, let's have this idea. No, let's have this idea and dispute between themselves. But even bigger, what is that supposed to mean for the United States? What is the implication of that somehow we're not going to get a negotiation, or that maybe they're going to give one that's to President Trump's preference? I mean, I don't think that's very likely. So I really think this is much ado about really nothing.
Colonel Davis, do you not think that Trump perhaps is looking at President Pezeshkian, who was, more or less moderate voice when the protests had happened earlier this year, much before the war began in Iran, and the others, whether it's the Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi or the Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf, they were supposed to be on one side and President Pezeshkian was on the other, seeking a truce with the protesters. Do you not think he's, going back there and now witnessing in the talks perhaps what was felt that time?
Well, listen, whatever may have been the case at that time before the war started, that has been shattered by the decision, the choice to start a war with Iran. I mean, there's the classic rally around the flag thing among the population is frequent when you see a country attacked, no matter how much division politically there was. But at the leader level, especially now, there's not going to be there's no room for any debate. And there's not a country on the planet that I'm aware of that I could even imagine that would say, okay, after we've been attacked by an external power, we're still going to be divisive, and one side is going to be leaning toward that aggressive power. I mean, it's illogical. And everything we know about the Iranian government and the Iranian people, they do have spirited debate inside about policies, but they always have one unified position coming out of it. And so I don't see any evidence that there's any weakening of position, certainly not that one would be leaning toward the United States. I think that day is gone if it ever existed.
So if that's the case, Colonel Davis, why do you think President Trump thinks that it is good strategy to speak in such terms? that there is a rift within the Iranian leadership?
Yeah, that's something I've been puzzling over because I can't come up with any benefit to the United States. It's almost like it's focused on an American domestic audience, like somehow we can feel better about things if we think they're the ones that are confused and they don't know what they're doing. And somehow we can imagine that puts us in a better position. But I got to tell you, there is no truth to that. I mean, when you look, the only thing that matters is what is the balance of power on the ground? How much combat power does the U.S. and Israel bring to it? How much defensive capabilities do the Iranian side have? And what can we compel or what can we not compel? And when you look at that balance, none of those kind of comments even matter because I think we all have to accept that there is no scenario where the Iranian side is going to give in, a portion of the Iranian government is going to give in to the attacker here when they have the capacity on their advantage with the control of the Strait of Hormuz. It would be illogical for them to do so, and I don't expect that they will act illogically.
Okay, so quickly my last question, Colonel Davis, then there are multiple reports that are saying that the Iranian foreign minister might be headed to Islamabad for the second round of negotiations. If and when that happens, do you expect any positive outcome out of that?
Well, listen, especially in light of those statements that you referred to a second ago that all of the political leadership put out yesterday, and everything they have been putting out to those willing to read it, they have a hardening position. And so they're saying, yeah, we want the war to be over. We're happy to have a negotiated settlement, but on our terms. And they're not going to settle for any terms that's going to make it easy for the United States or going to make it easy for Israel or prevent them from having any kind of leverage to make this war start again. That's their number one criteria, is no chance that this war starts again. They want some kind of security guarantees, and they are saying they will not negotiate until the blockade lifts, and that they'll never give up control of that Strait of Hormuz. And so unless the U.S. is willing to do that, then I don't know that there's going to be any talks. And maybe that's why he went to Islamabad, to communicate their position.
All right, the entire world is awaiting as to what happens next. I leave it there. Thank you very much, Colonel Davis, for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, let's also tell you how Iran took a swipe at Donald Trump after a social media repost by the American president sparked a massive controversy. Donald Trump had shared comments by one of his supporters referring to India and China as hell holes. Now, Iran's Consulate General in Mumbai hit back swiftly, suggesting that a visit to India could serve as a cultural detox for Trump and help curb what it called his random nonsense. The row erupted after Donald Trump reposted commentator Michael Savage's podcast that included a rant, particularly targeting India and China. Now, these remarks, widely condemned as racist, were part of a broader call to change American birthright citizenship laws. India condemned these comments, calling them uninformed, inappropriate, and in poor taste. Without naming Trump directly, the Ministry of External Affairs said that the remarks do not reflect the reality of the India-America ties. In fact, in apparent damage control, the U.S. Embassy here in New Delhi later said that Trump considers India a great country, led by a good friend at the top. But Iranian missions were quick to seize the moment and the controversy. The consulate in Mumbai posted a video highlighting Maharashtra's cultural and geographical richness with a sharp dig at Trump. It suggested a one-way cultural detox for the American president, saying it might reduce his random bakwas, which is a Hindi slang for nonsense. The post urged him to visit India before passing any sort of judgment. Iran's consulate in Hyderabad, meanwhile, amplified the message, praising India's southern regions as heaven mode, doubling down on the cultural counter-attack. Throughout the conflict, Tehran, remember, has aggressively used social media to target the US and Israel. Iranian missions worldwide have deployed memes, satire, and historical symbolism to mock Washington and shape the narrative. Even when Trump and his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, warned Iran could be bombed back to the Stone Age, Tehran responded with a mix of humor and history. The Iranian embassy in the UK responded with a powerful historical image. This one's from ancient Persia, carved into stone, showing King Shapur, the first king to triumph Roman emperors. Tehran has also praised global voices who have been critical of Washington. When Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez condemned the war, Iran responded by displaying his remarks on missiles aimed at Israel. Sanchez's anti-war comments, written both in English and Persian, were attached to a missile that was aimed at Israel. And after Trump targeted Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Iran was quick to react here as well. In a sarcastic post, its mission in Ghana claimed that Italy had lost an ally in Washington, led by a commander in grief and the world's most powerful man. It ended with an appeal to Iran and Italy's shared historical pedigree. On the 14th of April, remember, the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian had thanked countries including Spain, China, Russia, Turkey, Italy and Egypt for their positions, calling them rooted in deep cultural and historical ties. All right, shifting our focus now to India. In a major political development, Aam Aadmi Party MP Raghav Chadha has announced that 2/3 of the party's members in the Rajya Sabha have decided to merge with the Bharatiya Janata Party. Addressing a joint press conference along with fellow MPs Sandeep Pathak and Ashok Mittal today, Raghav said that the decision had been taken collectively by the required majority to seek protection under the anti-defection framework. Citing constitutional provisions, Raghav stated that he's leaving Aam Aadmi Party, alleging the party has deviated from its principles.
पार्टी देश के लिए नहीं, देश के हित के लिए नहीं, बल्कि अपने पर्सनल फायदे के लिए काम कर रही है.
Now this party does not work in the interest of the nation, but for its personal benefits. For the past few years, I could feel that I am the right man in the wrong party. So today, we announce that I am distancing myself from the app and getting close to public.
हम ये अनाउंस करते हैं, मैं ये अनाउंस करता हूं कि मैं आम आदमी पार्टी से दूर जा रहा हूं और जनता के पास जा रहा हूं.
During the press conference, Sandeep Pathak said that he had always kept the party and Arvind Kejriwal first, also adding that politics is worship for him.
अपने जीवन में नहीं सोचा था कि ये स्थिति आएगी.
I never thought that a situation like this would come, but it's here. I was associated with this party for 10 years. I break all my ties with Aam Aadmi Party today.
मैं आम आदमी पार्टी से अपने रास्ते अलग कर रहा हूं.
Meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party has reacted to Raghav's announcement. Senior AAP leader Sanjay Singh described Raghav Chadda's move as betrayal to the party and the people of Punjab. Sanjay Singh, who's an AAP MP in the Rajya Sabha, said that the Arvind Kejriwal-led party made Raghav Chadda an MLA and then an MP, but he ended up in the BJP's lap. 6 other MPs, along with Raghav Chadda, have announced merger with the Bharatiya Janata Party. Ashok Mittal, Sandeep Pathak, Swati Maliwal, Harbhajan Singh, Vikram Sahni and Rajendra Gupta are all part of this move. Now remember, this marks a major yet unexpected shift in the composition of the Rajya Sabha, merging a substantial portion of the Aam Aadmi Party contingent with the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. AAP has 10 members in the upper house and 7 of them have now decided to leave the party and merge with the BJP. The announcement comes days after the Aam Aadmi Party removed Raghav Chadda as the deputy leader in the Rajya Sabha. A day after West Bengal witnessed a record voter turnout of more than 92% in the first phase of assembly elections, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hit out at Mamata Banerjee-led Trinamool Congress, saying that the Chief Minister's party will not even open its account after the results are out on the 4th of May. PM Modi said that in the last 15 years, the Trinamool Congress government did nothing for the development of the state and deprived Dalit and backward classes of central schemes benefits. He urged voters to vote for the Bharatiya Janata Party in the second phase, which is scheduled for the 29th of April. He also said that the BJP's victory will bring a new era of development to Bengal. India's Supreme Court had hailed the record voter turnout, saying that when people exercise their right to vote, it strengthens the democratic setup in the country. Preparations are now underway for the final and the decisive phase of this election. More than 1,400 candidates are in fray across 142 constituencies. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has ordered the suspension of the officer in charge of the Hingalganj police station in North 24 Parganas district, following allegations that he was acting in a partisan manner. The poll panel has issued a fresh set of post-poll guidelines as well for the assembly elections, laying down strict protocols for handling surveillance cameras and video data after voting concludes. And our correspondent Dharamjot Kaur has sent us this report.
Phase 1 of the West Bengal assembly elections is over. We are now headed towards phase 2. Now, the first phase had two things happening at the same time. We had a massive voter turnout, just shy of 93%, with women turning out in huge numbers, outnumbering the men. On the other hand, there were also sporadic incidents of violence and scuffle that was reported through the course of the election day yesterday. But given that the first phase is now over, there are a few days now left to the second phase, where all parties are now resuming massive campaigning. This voter turnout of phase 1 has been pitched as a victory, as an early victory already by both the TMC and the BJP. Mamata Banerjee is calling it a mandate for another term for herself, that the voters have given it to her. And now Union Minister Amit Shah, who is currently in the city, has issued a press conference in which he said that this mandate is for the BJP and for change, and that voters in the state are finally stepping out of a mode of fear. Whether or not any of these statements are true, we'll find out once the second phase of elections is over and the result comes out on May the 4th. Amid all of this, there are still a lot of serious issues pertaining to the election, SIR being one of them. In fact, just earlier in the day, we heard about 65 judicial officials working in the area and belonging to the area whose names were not on the voter list. So the SIR again rearing its ugly head. It remains to be seen if similar issues are witnessed ahead of the second phase of voting as well. Here in Calcutta with video journalist Joy, this is Dharamjot Kaur for WION World One.
Right, shifting our focus now, French President Emmanuel Macron has said that he will quit politics after his second term ends in 2027, the maximum allowed under French law. The president, who was on a two-day visit to Cyprus for a European Council meeting, was addressing students in Nicosia. Now, according to Radio France International, Macron said, and I quote him here, "I wasn't involved in politics before becoming president, and I won't be involved afterwards." Now, these remarks assume significance because Emmanuel Macron had signalled a longer political horizon less than a year ago. In July last year, speaking at an event marking the 10th anniversary of the youth wing of his Renaissance movement in Paris, he had said, and I quote, "I will need you in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. These comments were widely read in French political circles as leaving open the possibility of a future return. Macron, remember, was first elected in 2017 at the age of 39, becoming France's youngest president since the founding of the Fifth Republic in 1958. He was re-elected in 2022, but the French constitution bars a third consecutive presidential term, preventing him from contesting the next election scheduled for 2027. Now, one of Macron's main domestic policy changes has been pension reform, which raised France's legal retirement age from 62 to 64. The measure triggered nationwide protests and union opposition when it was introduced. His second term has also been marked by a more fragmented parliament. Macron's camp lost its absolute majority in the National Assembly after the 2022 legislative elections, complicating the passage of major reforms. Political pressure intensified in June 2024 after Macron dissolved the parliament and called snap legislative polls following a strong showing by the far-right National Rally in the European Parliament elections. This move was criticized by opponents and by some figures within his own Renaissance party. In his 2025 New Year's address, Macron acknowledged that the decision had created more political instability rather than delivering solutions for the French people. A high-stakes legal battle between Elon Musk and OpenAI is all set to go to trial on Monday next, with a jury in California to decide whether Musk was misled over the company's founding mission. The case centers on claims that OpenAI shifted from a non-profit model to a for-profit structure. Elon Musk had sued OpenAI, its CEO Sam Altman, as well as co-founder Greg Brockman back in 2024, alleging that the company breached its original promise to operate for the benefit of humanity. Musk, who co-founded OpenAI in 2015, left the organization in 2018 and later launched rival AI firm xAI. The trial, set to begin with jury selection on the 27th of April in Oakland, California, will examine whether Musk was deceived into contributing about $38 million based on assurances that OpenAI would remain a non-profit. At the heart of this case is OpenAI's transition to a for-profit structure in 2025, a move that Elon Musk claims violates its founding principles. If he succeeds, Musk is seeking to force OpenAI to return to a non-profit model. And he's also demanding billions of dollars in financial disgorgement. He has further called for the removal of Sam Altman as well as the director and as an officer of the company's for-profit entity, as well as the stripping of his equity stake. Musk is also seeking similar action against Greg Brockman, who is currently the president of OpenAI. The lawsuit also names Microsoft, that invested $1 billion in OpenAI back in 2019, accusing it of supporting the alleged breach. Legal experts say a ruling in Musk's favor could disrupt OpenAI's current structure and complicate any plans for a future public listing. However, OpenAI has rejected these claims, arguing that Musk is a disgruntled competitor attempting to undermine its business. All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power, but we will keep getting you news and analysis from across the world and here in India. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
No SUV is too big here. No adventure motorcycle too advanced. Man's ego is of no use in Ladakh. To drive here is to see your life in perspective, to be reminded that there's always time.
Then I figured that if not now, when?
To take the long way, to define your own life.
I keep on reminding myself, why did you leave your job? Don't make this your job.
Coming up this week on WION Drive at these times.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Iconic stories and characters make a comeback. It's a wave of nostalgia on eClub. Know all about the style and buzz around The Devil Wears Prada 2.